What I find really interesting about psychedelic psychotherapies is that we are obviously addressing the biological aspect of a person, but we're also having this profound effect on their state of consciousness. There are some psychological changes that seem to be lasting after that one experience. And so that's fascinating because there are very few things in psychology that change somebody in a lasting way in a very short period of time.
So the Center for Psychedelic Research at UC San Diego is incredibly special and unique because it is so interdisciplinary. Our line of research spans from rodent models where we can look at single cells all the way to integration of our findings into our community.
The work that Fadl has done with fMRI and mindfulness is sort of the underpinnings of that research that we're going to be doing for psychedelics. If you scan the brains of people with a variety of chronic pain conditions and you compare them to people who don't have the same chronic pain condition, you can actually see different wiring, so to speak, or different connections among the various aspects or the various centers within the brain.
And by combining the physiological and the brain imaging data with psychological assessments and their subjective reports, we can get a much clearer appreciation on if and how these substances can benefit and promote well-being.
This study also is a window into these very unique effects of psychedelics. What we're looking at is the idea that maybe the same way we can have one profound experience of distress that then later causes post-traumatic stress, perhaps we can have one profound experience of insight that is almost the opposite of post-traumatic stress.
The Center for Psychedelic Research currently has a study where we're enrolling individuals with phantom limb pain and treating them with psilocybin. One of the challenges with a lot of pain research is that there are not a lot of great drugs or treatments for certain pain conditions. One of the things that excites me about this is that we may be able to find things that really work in a central way that have never been tried before, that provide novel ways of addressing people's chronic debilitating pain. You know, we've been living in the midst of an opioid epidemic now for 20 years. We desperately need new therapy that can work for a variety of conditions, and especially those conditions that are really difficult and challenging to manage.
Premise is to follow the data and not our or other people's biases that could potentially contaminate the data.
I think we have a responsibility as researchers to do this correctly. There was some very interesting psychedelic research that was starting to happen in the 50s and 60s, but it jumped out of the lab and became a part of the counterculture, and that research got interrupted because it was not being done in a scientifically rigorous way and shut down. And if we aren't careful about things, we could see that same thing happen again, and we definitely don't want to do that.
I also think there's something important to be said here, though, about perhaps not repeating some of the mistakes of drug development in the past, being such a profit-making enterprise, because I do think that it would be a sad end to this story if these became solely profit-generating drugs that were not accessible to people who need them.
That's on us as a center to train the next generation of scientists and clinicians from a perspective that will ensure that this center outlives all of us.